Chapter 3, Example 4. Describe the distribution of penny weights from the sample provided. So here I have a table full of different penny weights. We just want to describe the distribution, so we're going to cuss. To make life easier, we're going to use the calculator to graph for us, so the inspires that we've been using in class. From the home page, do a new document. We're going to add a list and spreadsheet. This will look like an Excel page. At the very top where it says A, not for the equal line, but above that, you need to enter a name. Since these are penny weights, I'm just going to call it weights. And then we're going to fill in all of the penny weights that I have. Make sure we put all those in there at the 2.57, 2.51, 3.10. I went down each column. And we're going to fill in all 30 of these data points. Then I'm going to hit Control Document to do a new page. And I want a Data and Statistics page now. This is where we see our graphs. And when you hit Enter, it plots everything up here. No order, just randomly throws the dots up there because it doesn't have a scale or anything. On the bottom where it says Click to Add Variable for our X variable, I'm going to click on that. And it will bring up any variables we've put in there. We've only used one so far, weights. That's the only option that pops up. I select weights. When we do that, it goes ahead and puts them together on a number line. A histogram is a nice graph to be able to describe, so I want to turn these dots into a histogram. I'm going to hit Control Menu to bring up like a right click, and it has a box plot, histogram, normal probability plot that we'll talk about later, and some zoom functions. So we're going to pick a histogram, and there you go. Now, this doesn't look like a normal histogram. I only have 3 bars for those lower ones and 4 for the higher. So we're going to adjust our bin settings. I'm going to, again, do Control Menu for a right click. And I'll have bin settings. And I want to pick equal bin width, number 1. You always want equal bin widths. The bin is the size of the bars, what I'm counting by. So I'm going to switch that width to 0.05. And the alignment, which is where it starts counting from, to 2.40. Sometimes you may have to experiment with this, just mess around with different bin settings. When we do a histogram, I like having maybe like 8 to 12 bins. Now this one's a little unusual, and we'll get why in the description. But we want to try and have that many bins to get a good picture. Sometimes by changing the alignment, changing the bin widths, you can make it look more unimodal and symmetric, which is very critical. We'll talk about that in the next chapter. So there we go. The left side looks a little bit better. I still only have 7 bins total, but we'll go ahead and go with this. We could experiment with it a little bit, change some smaller bin settings if we wanted, and maybe get it a little bit better, but this is okay. So we're going to cuss center, unusual shape, and spread. Now clearly this is bimodal. There's 2 modes. We have a peak around 2.5 weights and a peak around 3.1 grams. So let's cuss. The distribution of weights is bimodal. About half of the pennies are in the lighter group, which is roughly symmetric. The lighter pennies are centered around 2.5 grams. Most of the lighter pennies weigh between 2.45 grams and 2.55 grams. The heavier cluster of pennies is centered around 3.1 grams. Most of the heavier pennies are between 3.0 and 3.15 grams. And the heavier pennies are skewed left. There's a gap between 2.6 grams and 3.0 grams in which no penny weights fall. It appears there are 2 different types of pennies here. So, center. Now, since I'm bimodal, I want to talk about both groups separately. So I talk about the center of the lighter group and the heavier group. I'm going to talk about the spread of each of those groups individually, because clearly what's going on here is I have 2 different groups of pennies. Okay, unusual is that gap between there. It's unusual that there's no weights between 2.6 grams and 3.0 grams, so that's the unusual I talk about. And make sure you talk about the shape of each one individually. So in bimodal, a lot of time what you do is you have 2 different groups. It turns out that pennies were originally made of copper, But copper started getting so expensive that pennies cost more than a penny to produce. So the government went to a copper covering filled with zinc in the middle. And those are the heavier pennies. They have zinc inside instead of being pure copper.